These are things you can get for free if you ask. So coffee shops sometimes stow away mistake drinks that they made wrong they could typically get for free, and many stores typically give away or throw out at the end of season display items they can get for free if you're nice about it. I would know. Public libraries will sometimes have library of things that allow you to borrow things like board games, cameras, and even telescopes for free, while many buildings and restaurants will typically validate your parking for free if you paid for street parking in certain cities. When at nice hotels, they typically have different kinds of pillows you can request for free, including 5-foot body pillows and buckwheat pillows. You can also ask for things like lint rollers, deodorant, and even sewing kits, and typically get a late checkout assuming they're not overbooked. When flying, you can typically ask for multiple snacks and drinks beyond the single one you're given, assuming there's enough. Additionally, if you ever missed your flight by a small margin, airlines have a flat tire policy that typically lets you hop onto the next flight for free, assuming you're nice at the gate. And finally, if you ever want a discount on a service like your phone, you can threaten to cancel it and they'll typically throw in a month for free or just reduce your monthly amount significantly. Pretty cool, right? These are things you're allowed to own, but you can't sell. So if you find a bald eagle feather on the ground, you're able to keep and display it, but you're strictly prohibited from selling it and face a $100,000 fine and a year in prison if you do, thanks to wildlife protection laws. Many high-end cars like Ferraris don't allow you to sell the car for 24 months after owning it. They could actually sue you and blackball you forever if that's the case. If you get access to a moon rock and try to sell it, the FBI or NASA will set up a sting operation to arrest you since it's technically federal property. The Medal of Honor is the only military medal with a no-profit law, so you're technically not allowed to sell it. And you're also unable to sell any of your organs and can land in jail for 5 years for doing so. If you hunt a deer, you're allowed to feed your family with it, but selling it to anybody else is illegal since wild game isn't USDA inspected. This is the same for raw milk, so you can drink it from your own cow, but nobody else can. You can't sell your social media handles as it's against TOS, nor can you sell your airline miles as that will get you a lifetime ban. And finally, you can't sell any digital game, movie, or song that you own because you technically own the license and not the file. You gotta get the physical.
When have you seen the real world hit a spoiled brat? I was a school bus driver in the 70s. There were lots of entitled brats, but one stands out. He was a super entitled kid, constantly defying rules. Eventually I caught him, with too many witnesses, attempting to set a bus seat on fire with his lighter. School officials were called. There was a hearing with school officials and his rich dad. He got banned from all buses for the rest of semester. Dad offers to pay for the damage and quietly accepts the punishment. Then comes the surprise. The next morning when I arrive at 6 a.m. to clean my bus, a regular task every morning, the rich kid and his dad are standing there. The dad introduces me to my new personal bus cleaner for the rest of the year. He then brings the kid every morning and forces him to wash and clean the floors on my bus before taking him on to school. By the end of year, the entitled kid is actually working hard and being friendly. We're getting along pretty well, and I help him out sometimes so he can get on to school. The kid turns out okay when all is over. Good move by his dad.
This is what slang looked like over the last 100 years. So the silent generation pioneered pop culture-based slang that was playful yet polite, with the most popular being the cat's pajamas, which means excellent, scram, which means to go away, and moxie, which means courage. After this was the baby boomers, whose slang reflected rebellion and counterculture post-war, and so they opted for words like groovy, which means cool, far out, which means amazing, and bummer, which means disappointing. Onto Gen X, which had slang that reflected early digital awareness and pre-internet media, so they invented words like fresh, which means cool, right on, which means agreed, and even epic, which means amazing. From here we have millennials, and they have popularized text and internet-born phrases like OMG and LOL, meaning oh my gosh and laugh out loud respectively, as well as terms like bae, which is just a babe shortening, and lit, which means exciting. Gen Z is meme and social media driven and emphasize irony often with their terms like riz, which means charisma, and sus, which means suspicious. Leading us now to Gen Alpha, who is actively forming our language as we speak with heavy meme vernacular like 6'7", which means nothing, and then even choppelganger, which means an ugly lookalike. I wonder what Gen Beta will have for us.
What's the craziest coincidence that happened to you? I once went and got sushi with my mom, and I noticed a guy and a girl at another table very clearly on their first date. They were both dressed very nice, a lot of awkward laughter. The guy was being ultra gentlemanly, like pulling her chair out for her. You know, just the usual stuff that tips an observer off that they were still very much getting to know each other and wanting to make a good impression. Fast forward 2.5 years. I was boarding a plane in Atlanta, heading to Colorado with my brother to go skiing, when I saw the same couple seated near the back of the plane. I was in the row directly in front of them, so when I put my bag up, I turned to them and said, "This is going to be super weird, but did you guys have your first date at insert sushi restaurant?" They both got wide-eyed in shock and laughed and told me that they had in fact had their first date there. I told them I was there that night and just happened to recognize them when I boarded the plane. It was friendly and we chit-chatted for a bit. They were going skiing at the same place we were, so it was cool and all. Day 2 of our trip, my brother and I are at the top of the mountain. There were maybe a dozen or so people up there, and before taking off, we decided to look at the trail map. About 20 feet away from us, a guy got down on one knee and proposed to his girlfriend, and everyone clapped as she jumped up and down with excitement and said, yes. They took off their helmets and goggles to kiss, and it was the same freaking couple. I literally was there for their first date, met them for the first time on a plane purely by chance because I was sitting in front of them and was present when he proposed to her.
This is what beauty beauty look like over the last 1,000 years. So up until about the year 500, beauty was tied to symmetry in line with Greek ideals, and then it transitioned shortly afterwards to having young baby-like features. In the year 1000, beauty was tied to porcelain pale skin, which signaled you didn't work outside, alongside a big forehead leading to women picking their hairlines to get that oval look. Into the 1500s, and weight gain was a beauty indicator for women and men as it signaled affordability to eat. In the 1800s, tiny waists as little as 18 inches would be in, which actually injured a lot of women due to organ suppression. Similarly, looking sickly was thought to be refined, and so pale with dark circles was in. In the early 1900s, bob haircuts and dark eyes and makeup were in as it mimicked the stars of the silent film era. Unlike into the 1950s, and the hourglass look emerged with beauty standards tied to people like Marilyn Monroe. Contrarily though, the next 50 years afterwards it started to get thinner and thinner to define beauty. But then in the late 2000s and 2010s, curves emerged again with Instagram and figures like Kim Kardashian influencing culture, which now leads us to the 2020s, and there's less certainty around what ideal beauty looks like. So I guess it's all individual now. Pretty cool, right?
What was the incident at your high school? In an effort to crack down on grinding at school dances, the principal did a school-wide PSA about it. Apparently, a common excuse students gave to avoid getting in trouble for it was that while they may have heard that grinding was against the rules, they didn't know what grinding meant. So he described it in detail. Then, at the end of the PSA, he said that any student who still did not understand could come down to his office where he would use dolls to demonstrate the prohibited behavior. Hundreds of students lined up outside his office. The hallway was utterly impassable for the rest of the day, and students refused to be shepherded to class by staff because the principal said he would show us how to grind. Teachers joined the line. His idea to fix this was to announce instead we could attend an optional auditorium demonstration after school that day. The auditorium had never been more full. After-school groups postponed activities. Even the teachers in charge of them just sort of got out of the way and let it happen. Kids called, texted their parents, and told them they had to attend and would need to be picked up later. Buses were delayed, screwing up the busing schedule. It was a train wreck. He did the demo. He got fired almost immediately. We later found out that he was very unpopular among the staff at that school, and a lot of teachers sort of went out of their way to help the train wreck pile up as badly as possible. He really has no one to blame but himself, though.
These are actors that almost died on set. So Sylvester Stallone almost died during the filming of Rocky IV as he took a real punch from Dolph Lundgren in this scene, which he had actually spent 9 days in intensive care over, with the impact being similar to a head-on car crash. Jackie Chan has a permanent hole in his head thanks to a 25-foot fall he had after a tree branch snapped during this scene of Armor of God, where he ultimately cracked his skull on a rock. Tom Cruise was almost decapitated during The Last Samurai after a mechanical horse malfunctioned, and his head was inches away from hitting a sword that was luckily pulled back 1 centimeter away. Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future Part 3 actually choked for real during this scene and passed out for nearly a minute after offering to do the scene realistically. Similarly, Diane Kruger in Inglourious Basterds actually lost consciousness from Christoph Waltz choking her in this scene. Isla Fisher almost drowned on the set of Now You See Me after her chains got stuck during the water in this scene, being underwater for 3 minutes. The crew actually thought she was just doing a great job acting, but actually she was drowning. And finally, Jason Statham accidentally drove a truck 60 feet off a pier into the Black Sea during the Expendables 3 filming, but luckily his training allowed him to break free and swim to the surface to survive. That's crazy. These are actors who changed their identities for roles. So Joseph Fiennes played Michael Jackson in an Urban Myths episode and received so much backlash that they had to pull the episode off air, making it now lost media. Similarly, Mickey Rooney played a Japanese landlord named Mr. Yuniyoshi in Breakfast at Tiffany's, which didn't age well with many people. Conversely, Eddie Redmayne played the role of a transgender character in the movie The Danish Girl and was nominated for an Oscar, and Jared Leto actually won an Oscar for his portrayal of a trans woman in Dallas Buyers Club, despite both of them being straight. Hollywood seems to like when actors change identities, with Tom Hanks winning an Oscar too for his role as a gay man in Philadelphia. Scarlett Johansson played a Japanese woman in Ghost in the Shell despite not being Asian, and Johnny Depp played a Native American in The Lone Ranger in 2013 despite not being a Native American. And finally, John Wayne turned Mongolian for his role as Genghis Khan in The Conqueror in 1956, with many people considering this to be the worst casting of all time. Pretty cool, right?